welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of empowering India's small businesses such as yourselves and hand-holding and guiding you in your growth journey. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we're doing a series of conversations leading up to the end of the year. Today, I'm focusing on two specific sectors. First and foremost, I'm talking about the fine jewellery market, a conversation with BlueStone joining us here on the show. Also on the show, Ayushi Gudwani, someone who's been on our show previously from FS Life, joining us on the show tonight. So good having you here with us on the Leaders of Tomorrow. Gaurav, really talking about how the environment has been changing as far as jewelry is concerned, and you are in the best position to comment on that because you are talking to an audience, plus you are at the front end really of all of the changes that are taking place when it comes to consumer preferences, when it comes to pricing, when it comes to innovation. And thanks for doing this year-ender series with us.
Lovely speaking with you too, Sunanda.
So, I want to really kick off today's conversation, before we talk really about the market, how your company has grown and is growing exponentially. Where did that journey really start? Were you looking for jewelry and said, can't find what I'm looking for, designs are outdated, I must start something on my own?
Yeah, so a little bit of that. So I was between startups. So I had sold off my first startup and I was looking to start in something. And around the same time, I was getting married also. So this was my first exposure to this category. Before that, I had never stepped foot in a jewelry store. So what I noticed was that there was, in terms of design, in terms of the overall consumer experience, etc., not much had changed over time. So it was still, the designs were very old. The way it was being sold was same as 20 to 30 years.
So you were helping your wife's taste when it comes to jewelry when you were getting married? She was letting you do that.
She was very happy. She was very happy that I started here. So in 2011, I noticed that technology can play a very big role in the way the consumers experience this category. And technology had already transformed a lot of other categories. So if you look at the way we buy our cars these days, if you look at the way we buy our shoes, apparel, everything, technology has a bigger and bigger role to play in all those categories. But not much was happening in case of jewelry, and that's what that was the time. And looking at that that opportunity, I decided to start in jewelry. We started as an online-only brand back in 2011. And that really helped us get to 0 to 100 crore in a very, very cost-efficient fashion. We could iterate on our designs, we could iterate on our offerings, we could iterate on our policies, etc. much, much faster. So we started with the just-in-time manufacturing model. We would not stock up a lot of inventory, even while the choices kept on getting increased. And in 4 to 5 years, we had around 3,000 designs or so available online. We didn't have to inventorize any of that. And that actually helped us play a bolder game. That helped us being more experimental in our design. The price points in the categories are very high, 40,000, 50,000, 80,000 and so on. And then there is a general mistrust or fear in the category. What they needed was a support of store for that interest.
Sure.
For that interest to then culminate into sale, a store was needed.
Sure.
And
that's when we started. Is this true only for your brand though? So having this online to offline, do people still want to touch and feel in the jewelry category?
So I would say in fine jewelry, it is very true. In case of fashion jewelry or in case of jewelry where the price points are 500,000, 2,000, that much touch and feel is not needed.
Yeah.
But in fact, not only in jewelry, if you look at any other category, if you look at cars also, people do a lot of decision making, a lot of research online, but they don't click a buy now button on a portal.
Yeah.
So both online and offline have to come together for categories which require a lot of research and which are high price point categories.
Sure.
And in many other categories, what happens is showrooming is provided by some other company and the web offering or the online offering is provided by some other company. But ours being a full stack model, so we do design to manufacturing everything in-house. We are responsible for showrooming our own designs also.
Sure.
And a large part of buying that is happening in stores, as we go through the numbers and data, what we notice is that almost 80 to 90% people who are walking into the store have already done some sort of a browsing or extensive browsing online. they are very, very clear about the designs that BlueStone has to offer. They know, they remember. Many of them have gone through actually almost all the 9,000, 10,000 designs, and they know what all products are available.
Sure.
They're a lot more informed. They are not walking into the store saying, "Kya hai aapke paas?" They're walking into the store saying that, okay, these are the products that I've shortlisted. Which all of these do you have in your store?
Okay.
And hence our integrations, etc., are also very seamless. So from the website, it actually tells you which store that particular design is sitting in.
Great.
You can actually choose to browse designs only in a specific store, or only in a bunch of stores. Right? So a lot of those features have been provided.
Okay. Is that really the way that the jewelry market is going to continue growing? You feel that, especially since you are talking to a niche clientele, if I can call it that, you're talking to urban women with perhaps a certain amount of disposable income, with a certain sort of say in the family and in the family decisions. So is that the way the market is heading?
I believe it is. Gone are the days when you would actually walk into a store cold without only basis the relationship that let's say you had with that jeweler, with no idea about the designs that are being offered, with no idea about the designs that are not being offered also. Right? Now that is also very important. Earlier, let's say 20 years back, you would walk into a store and just choose from 400, 500 designs that are present there. Now there might be cocktail rings, there might be journey rings, which are not even there, and you wouldn't even know that such designs even exist. Okay. Because there was no browsing happening, there was no product discovery happening. So I believe that product discovery, which has become a must for almost all categories, is going to become more and more important. In case of fine jewelry also, people are growing up, people have with the access to internet, people now know all the trends that are happening globally, in the country also, and so on. So irrespective of the city you are living in, even if you're living in tier 3, tier 4 city, you're still consuming the same content that a person living in tier 1 city is consuming. You are still getting exposed to the same design trends. So online will keep on playing more and more important role in product discovery, and offline will have to actually then support online for that intent to then convert into sales. Okay. What we have also noticed is once people have purchased few products with us, then they are more comfortable placing the order online. It's like they get to know the brand better. They get to know our designs better. Once you've created an interpersonal connect, after that the process can be done online also. So a lot of repeat purchases also come purely online. So that's the transformation that I see happening. Local jewelers, I think, would struggle.
And I was just going to come to that, because you're playing in a market which has the smaller retailer, the smaller jewelers who perhaps have been selling to specific families for generations. That's right? And on the other hand, you have international players. You have, of course, the entire Tata Group on one hand, and you occupy a very niche part of this market. Just talk to us, how you decided that this was the USP you were going to target, and how you've ensured that you've maintained that, because now you do have a few, Carrot Lane, etc., which are also perhaps in this space. How do you do that?
Right. So when we started and we looked at the landscape, what we noticed was that local jewelers have a very strong hold. In the local communities, in the local
trust
areas.
Factor, right?
And the trust factor is there, because let's say the same family has been buying with them for 3 generations, 4 generations, and so on. But one of the trends that has been happening, and it's a societal trend that is happening in the country, is that people are moving from one place to other. So people who are living in villages, and let's say if they are better off, they want their next generation to live in cities, not in villages. People who are living in, let's say, tier 2, tier 3 cities, their next generation is going to Bombay, Bangalore for better opportunities, for better life, for better. And when this happens, those local ties break. And then when, let's say, a newlywed couple living in Bangalore is looking for a new jeweler or for a new jewelry brand, they typically tend to trust national brands a lot more than the local brands or local jeweler of that particular city, because of the way the whole market was developed. So I think that was the sweet point at which we wanted to operate. Another thing that we noticed was that, so in India, till 30-40 years back, almost all the jewelry market, or a very big chunk of the jewelry market, was wedding. Now, because of that, what had happened was the offerings in wedding jewelry space are a lot. So every jeweler in every city, their primary business is wedding jewelry. At the same time, today's women a lot of today's women, they are not looking to buy a lot of heavy jewelry that would then just go and sit in the locker. They also want jewelry that they can wear to offices, that they can wear to evening parties, outings, and so on. And these changes have also happened because earlier, 30 years back, the big occasion used to be these big marriages, either your marriage, your cousin's marriage, your sister's marriage, and so on. But these days, women are going out on a lot more micro occasions. Now, the jewelry needed for those occasions is also different from the one that was needed for wedding. But because the market, there had not been too much of design innovation, that space was not well solved. So, which is where we decided to make the move. Right now, wedding, non-wedding is almost 50-50 in the market. And this 50% of non-wedding has grown from almost zero 40 years back to 50%. So it's growing at a very rapid pace. And women are looking for designs which are extension of their personalities, which are variable, which they can actually change from occasion to occasion. If they are having a lot of frequent outings with the same set of people, she would want to wear different jewelry every time.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, Sunanda.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
All right. Time for a quick break. FS Life on the Other Side is part of our ongoing year-end series of conversations. We're back in just a moment. To stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Ayushi, so good having you here on the show. You know, in the past few years, your ethos and really the idea behind driving and change has been the fact that no single body type is similar to another one. And plus size fashion for all body types, that's becoming more and more acceptable. Is it changing as fast as you would want to see? Are people's perceptions changing? Are people changing? Companies changing? Is the industry really changing fast enough for your liking?
So you're very right, actually. Fashion hasn't been traditionally receptive to body inclusivity. The new age companies are actually becoming much more conscious about this. In fact, one of the core reasons why I started Fable Street back in 2016 was I was an extra large size. I would never find clothes which would fit well and look good on me. And that was one of the core triggers for us to start FS Life and Fable Street now. Over time, we have consistently seen that, you know, people and fashion has become increasingly inclusive. I don't think it is there yet, but it's become much better now as opposed to what it was about 7-8 years back.
How are attitudes, and by this I mean consumer preferences and consumers' attitudes, changing as far as season-specific clothing is concerned?
So overall, in the past decade, I would say that, you know, it depends upon geographies primarily. Seasonal clothing is important, I think, in extreme geographies up north and a little bit west and little bit east. There, I think it is more prominent. Down south and even in southwest, seasonal clothing is very limited. But I would say that overall there has been a larger shift towards all day wear, all season wear consistently across. And that's something that we have seen historically as well, and more so as we see now. Having said that, wherever there is extreme weather conditions, you will have significant usage of seasonal clothing, especially in winters more so. The other part on seasonality is, I would also say, occasions and things that come in. I think that's gotten more enhanced. People want to dress up, like if it's a wedding season, if it is festive season. At that part, I mean, it's not technically seasonality, but that's where, you know, people want to dress up more and make a lot of effort to do so. So I would say that overall, trend-wise, all season wear, but at the same time, occasional clothing is picking up.
Fast fashion, unfortunately, is a reality of our times. And I do know the last time that you joined us here on the show as part of a campus connect that we were doing with students, this question of fast fashion had come up, Ayushi. How do brands really stay relevant in the sense of addressing fast fashion and at the same time addressing the concerns around the environment and also providing all the choices that consumers are now increasingly demanding?
So I think fast fashion overall has been a difficult process for smaller businesses to last. And I think it's a well-established fact. Having said that, for newer and smaller businesses, it is still important that their product is relevant to the consumers. It is also important that they build a niche for their consumer segment and drive word of mouth. I would have just 3 simple of these measures to ensure that they still ensure that people want to come and buy them and people want to still find it relevant and use for the smaller businesses. Otherwise, it will become a really challenging environment for the small businesses to last long. Product relevance is the key.
What impact has the high cost of raw materials and input cost really had as far as the textile business is concerned?
So over last 2 years and a little bit more so, we have clearly seen that the raw material cost has increased to about 25 to 30%. And that cost has actually not plateaued or gone down in the last 6 to 8 months. So it has had a very significant impact on the textile sector traditionally in India. India has been a heavily cotton-based belt to offer to textiles even globally and within India. But with the high cost of cottons increasing, people have started shifting to polyesters and other lower and cheaper sources. What it has also therefore resulted in is that from a consumer point of view, they are not willing to pay more for the increasing cost in raw materials, right? So therefore, consumer want the same price point. The back end has increased, so it has impacted significantly the profitability, and therefore to manage that profitability, the brands have actually shifted a lot from cotton or high quality based products and textile to cheaper textiles. It has not been favorable, I would say, overall for India for the world and India for India.
You're a woman-led brand, of course, and you also put women first as far as FS Life is concerned. So my question is, the pandemic has had a huge impact on businesses across the world, but more so on the livelihoods of women. Study after study, really sort of points out to that. How do you ensure that the women that you're employing, the women that you're working with, their livelihoods are perhaps not being impacted?
So I'll tackle this in 2 parts. I think there is participation of women in the blue-collared workforce area, and then there is participation of women in the textiles and apparel as a sector in the white-collared and the leadership positions. In case of blue-collared workforce and primarily as an area, I think what is simply mandatorily needed is good and hygienic working conditions so that women can come and feel safe and also have toilets at places. I mean, if you go to smaller, machines and smaller setups, you will realize that, basic hygiene for women is not even there. The second part I think is critical again and it needs to be enforced via the labor law and the policies, is to ensure that there is equitable pay for the same quality of work between men and women. And these 2 are critical measures that we need to take. So there's a lot more that is being done, and hopefully we will overall see an improvement in both the aspects.
What is also changing is the way brands like yourself are communicating, engaging, and giving that user experience really as far as their business are concerned, as far as their products are concerned. What trends there can you talk to us about?
So the world has changed in last 2 years, as I would say, right? The brands really need to resonate well with the customer. Just by telling and sharing, this is the product we are selling is not adequate. Fashion brands have really changed the way they communicate, and they need to change. Consumers are looking for why they need to buy you, why they need to associate with you. They are not just looking for what you're selling, but they're looking for the story behind what you're selling and why you're selling that. Second is that you do need to communicate a lot more on what your product offers to the consumer. So that approach is critically important as we talk about the communication with the consumers, and there's a lot more that can be done and that needs to be done here.
So what's the outlook then, Ayushi, for 2023? We also have the budget, which is not too far away. So what expectations from there?
industry hasn't seen significant growth over last 2 years. I mean, of course, there has been a shift in balance between online and offline. During pandemic, we saw significant growth in online and very limited in offline, and then it has been vice versa over last few months. But broadly, the overall growth in the industry hasn't happened significantly. So I'm hoping that in 2023, the industry growth goes back to the usual levels, and we see a lot of demand stacking up. That's what the aspiration and growth is. In terms of expectations from budget, from a small business point of view, we do need a lot more simplified and favorable policies for startups and for smaller businesses. We cannot be consistently going through, the accounting, the GST, the 20 other multiple processes that are being added, etc. It makes it more and more difficult to do the business. Most of the small businesses are, run by single entrepreneurs, and they need to really, go and understand multiple things, and all of this is an overhead for them.
We started by talking about how you've really revolutionized the way people are approaching, plus size fashion in the way that every body type is different from the next one. So my question to you is, talk to me about what other trends perhaps we can expect to see in the clothing space.
I think the most important trend is where comfort meets fashion. Fashion has traditionally been important as a part of the industry, and comfort has become increasingly important over last 2 years as we went through the pandemic. So I think any area where we see fashion meeting comfort is the most crucial trend that we are likely to observe. I'm saying it at a much more overarching level. Second, I would say that overall the mindset to drive athleisure or much more casual and comfort clothing will consistently stay. And you have started seeing that, even the older generation, both men and women, have started imbibing a lot more casual approach to dressing. The younger TG was always very casual in it. Third, I would say that overall onset of, occasional wear and clothing will become increasingly important. People like to dress up, and there are a lot more avenues and opportunities coming up to dress up. So be it festive season, be it an event, be it multiple occasions, that part of clothing will become increasingly important. Fourth, which has been a consistent trend in general in India, is that there is a large movement towards westernization of garments. Good or not so good, but that trend continues to stay, and tier 2, tier 3s, and even smaller towns with the onset of social media, I think a lot more demand for Western has increased.
All right, Ayushi, so good having you here on the show with us. Out of time on tonight's show. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. We will continue doing industry-focused interviews as we're counting down to the end of the year, and we're counting up to the start of the new year. If you want any sectors, any companies in focus, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.